Hey everyone, it's Colin. How's it going? The term artificial intelligence has been in the tech news a lot lately, and it's clear that that technology is going to have a major disruptive effect on a lot of industries. But does that mean we're all going to be out of a job or something? Okay, so this is one of those kind of thinking podcast episodes. Not so much really heavy into tech details and all of that, but really more a larger scope type of topic. And I just want to try and feed you information to get your brain going so you can come to conclusions on a lot of this stuff on your own, right? My job isn't to sit here and tell you what to think and tell you what to believe. I just want to give you food for thought. So with that in mind, not too long ago, I put out a call on Twitter for suggestions for podcast topics, stuff you want me to talk about. And a Twitter follower named Space Invader Jim suggested that I talk about the future of robotics and automation and AI, that sort of stuff. Now, when you think about AI and automation and all that, maybe one of the first things that comes to mind is something like Siri or Google Assistant. Something that can help you more in your everyday life, on a smaller scale perhaps. And that's true, that's becoming a very common sort of thing for us. But for me, the first thing that came to mind were like industrial robots and self-driving cars and trucks. Larger scale kind of stuff like that. And it's become clear that the future of work, the future of the jobs that people do are going to be dramatically changed over the next, who knows, decade or two, maybe a little longer, simply because of newer and better advances in technology and automation and artificial intelligence. And there's a lot of worry, I think, about this, about people afraid that their entire careers are going to just one day be completely replaced by a machine or a computer, that they'll be out of a job and they'll never be able to get any work again, and then their minds get going and they'll end up living in a cardboard box down by the river or something like that. So I wanted to just try and throw some information out there. This is all stuff that's just kind of come to me as I've been thinking about this topic for a while now, because it's actually been on my mind for a while. Because in some ways, my own job, my day job, can get affected by it. And there's really kind of three different approaches to thinking about how people's jobs and livelihoods can get affected by automation and AI. The first is a pessimistic kind of approach, where it's that whole the sky is falling type of mentality, that every job that can get automated will get automated, and we'll have vast swaths of people who will be out of work and won't have any other vocational training or skills or any other ability to go out and get another job. And people will just, go bankrupt and they'll go broke and they won't be able to pay their bills and they'll starve and all these other bad things. I think it's pretty clear that that absolute extreme end of it, where you're just going to have like mass pandemonium and rampant poverty and all of that, I don't think that's going to be the case. But I do think there may be a little bit of a kernel of truth to the thought of there will be people who are going to get disrupted by this. Like I mentioned earlier on, things like automated cars, cars that can drive themselves. And after cars that can drive themselves, we'll see trucks that can drive themselves. Some industries that are definitely going to be ripe for disruption are things like taxis and truck driving and maybe even bus driving, that sort of thing. Transportation is actually a very big industry. Not just worldwide, but especially here in the United States where I live, where we rely on individual vehicles quite a bit more than some other countries. Some other countries are way better at mass transit and bulk shipping and that sort of stuff. The US, we've got a lot of cars and a lot of trucks, and they drive everywhere all the time. So we have a lot of people who need to be hired to drive those cars and trucks and buses. When all those vehicles become automated, and I mean fully automated, where you can press a button and the vehicle just drives all the way from, point A to point B completely on its own without needing anyone behind the wheel, yeah, absolutely. We're going to see people without jobs. And it's very simple because that costs a lot less than hiring people. I mean, that's really the crux behind why we're going to see so much automation is, yes, there are arguments about it'll be able to do the job better. It'll be able to do the job more effectively, more efficiently, all of that. But the big reason why is money. Payroll, labor costs are one of the largest expenditures that businesses have. And it's a recurring thing for them over and over. It's the same amount generally going to be going out every month. It's a recurring cost. And so if you can spend a chunk of money at the front end, that is a solution that will fix a lot of these recurring costs, then that's something that businesses are going to be receptive to, especially if it ends up being cheaper in the long term. Yes, there's going to be some ongoing costs to any sort of automation or AI platform, regular maintenance, upgrades, repairs, that sort of thing, but that's still ultimately probably going to be a lot cheaper than continuing to hire people to do that kind of work. And I think it's that kind of stuff, that example of, you're going to have suddenly, a nation of truck drivers, those truck drivers won't have jobs anymore. That's, I think, what really gets people kind of stirred up and worried. The thing to keep in mind, though, why I don't think that pessimistic attitude is really as bad as it could be is simply because, well, you're not going to be able to automate everything, right? There's always going to be industries that simply won't work in terms of being automated. And even then, if there is an industry that can get automated, there's going to be new jobs opening up as part of that automation. Okay, so maybe you're not driving the truck anymore, but perhaps you can get a job working in the control center, managing all of those trucks, that sort of thing. So, the pessimistic attitude of suddenly we're all going to become poor and, all the machines are just going to take over and it's just going to be a few people making tons of money and everybody else is going to be, way down at the bottom, not being able to feed themselves. That's just totally overboard, and I don't buy into that at all. The next attitude is the complete opposite, and that is this whole utopian optimistic attitude towards automation, where again, yes, everything that can get automated will get automated, but it's going to be for the betterment of society, and we will have ways of, working through the issues that come up of people whose jobs are lost. And tied into this, and I don't want to get too deep into this because we don't do politics on this channel. But one thing that comes up when talking about potentially what's going to happen with all these jobs and how people just aren't, going to be able to have money in order to continue with their lives is this concept of just kind of this universal basic income, where if you don't have a job, you just get money from the government. And yes, I know a lot of people right now are yelling about welfare, blah, blah, blah. That's the politics kind of stuff that I don't want to get into. But the concept really is, we know people are going to lose their jobs. We know people are ultimately, for a period of time, if not a long period of time, going to not be able to get another job. Not only because ultimately, as industries go through this upheaval and become automated and shed potentially large amounts of their workforce, you'll see a lot of people clamoring for what jobs there are left. But other industries are going to continue to go through that same churn as well. So you're going to have fewer and fewer jobs and more people, competing for them. But at the same time, you'll also have people who don't have any other skills, who can't get a job in another field that may still be hiring, at least not for a while until they've gone through training or education of some sort. So to get people by, and of course there's going to be some people who simply wouldn't want to work, because, hey, if they're going to give me free money, why not? That's the idea, is you end up with a certain amount of money per year, and it's not like some glamorous large amount. It's not like they're going to turn everybody into millionaires, because I don't even know where that money would come from. But, you'd have a livable wage. Would it be a very extravagant life? No, but you'd be able to put food on the table, that sort of thing. So there's the optimistic point of view. That said, why I think that kind of extreme is never going to work is because, one, the politics angle, just the fact that people are going to equate it with something like welfare, that they're going to equate it with just giving money away to people who are going to sit and not do work. That's going to turn a lot of people off. So, programs like that trying to get through the government, I'm not sure would get through. But the other thing is, of course, you got to think about the economics of it. Like, where is all that money going to come from? You can't just make the money to give the people. That money has to be generated somehow. So it would be generated through like tax revenues on businesses. Would businesses that, go through automation, would they really become that much more profitable for that much more money to be taken out in taxes and redistributed to basically to the people who lost their jobs from that industry? I don't know. I mean, in some ways, it kind of sounds like 6 and 1/2 dozen of the other, right? They're going to get rid of people to save money, but then they end up making more money and having to turn around and giving more of that money in taxes to give right back to the people who they got rid of. So this is where we're starting to get into the weeds with the politics, and I don't really want to go any further into this because that becomes a rat's nest, and I don't like that. But these are some of the things you got to think about when you kind of get into what I consider Star Trek mode, where money is no longer an issue anymore and everyone can just live, the utopian kind of life. Would it be awesome for that to happen? Yeah, but I have really no idea how we're going to get there. And I don't think technology is necessarily going to be the key to that. So that's the optimistic approach. The third approach, which I think makes a lot more sense, is this kind of realistic or middle of the road approach. And this is the way I'm choosing to think about this topic. Is that, yes, there are going to be industries that will be, going through major changes. Yes, there will be potentially people losing their jobs because of it, but it's not going to be as bad as we think. And there's a few reasons why. The first reason why I kind of alluded to earlier, and that is not every industry is going to go through this. In fact, there are industries that even though they could maybe automate, they don't. And there are other industries who are unable to automate, and they're already hurting for jobs now. These are things like the trades. If you wanted to let me put it this way. If you're graduating from high school and you're not sure you want to go to college, and this is great timing for this podcast to come out because at least here in the US, we're at a period of time where, we've got like seniors in high school who are graduating and going out into the world, and college graduates going out into the world, getting their first jobs or going to school or whatever. If you're graduating and you're not sure you want to go to college, you're maybe not that excited about going to college. Maybe there isn't a topic there that you're all that interested in, whatever. Maybe you were just an okay student. You didn't really care, whatever. A lot of people are saying that you should consider going into the trades. Things like plumbing, electrical, HVAC, so heating, air conditioning, that sort of thing. Becoming an auto technician, repair technician. A lot of people say, all those are blue collar jobs. You don't want those. But you know what? A lot of those trades are hurting for people so badly because all of the older people working in those trades are finally really getting to retirement age. They're falling out, and not that many new people have been coming into them. You can make a really, really good life for yourself by working in one of those fields. Is it glamorous? No. Is it hard work? Yes. But those industries are hurting so bad, they're throwing tons of money at people who are willing to come in. And it's examples like that. There's tons of other industries that won't be able to automate, if not now, ever. And because of the whole baby boomer thing, that generation is finally starting to retire and die off. It's opening up all these opportunities that are just going unfilled because for one reason or another, that kind of work is not desirable for people to want to do. So that's one aspect where automation, as a stopgap measure may come into play or may, take a while to get put into place where I think we'll still see jobs. There's, of course, fields that we'll just never be able to automate. Doctors, lawyers, those sorts of things that require higher levels of education and training and skill, but just don't really work all that well. It's like you go to the doctor, you've got these symptoms. Well, those symptoms could match any number of different, causes. If it's all automated where you're just basically walking up to a kiosk and tapping on the touchscreen, well, I feel like crap and here's what's going on with me, it may not get the right diagnosis for you. Whereas a real human who has experience, who has seen all of these sorts of things before, a doctor who knows what they're talking about would be able to look at you and go, I think this is what's going on with you because of their own experience. So that's one angle to look at it from is there's still going to be jobs no matter what. The other angle to look at it from is that we don't necessarily have to automate everything to the point where people are going to lose jobs or lose as many jobs. This is going to take some cooperation on the part of businesses who are going to automate. And it's going to take a little bit of a radical shift in thinking, but it's been done before. Here's an example. Automakers. They've got assembly lines that build cars, and lots of people work on those assembly lines to build the cars. When American automakers first started to automate their assembly lines, like with those robots, the workers freaked out. They absolutely freaked out. They were afraid for their jobs, right? They figured, the robots are going to come in, the robots are going to build all the cars, and they won't have any jobs left. So the workers protested and showed their anger and all of that kind of stuff. And ultimately, some of their jobs were replaced, but the robots still went in and the robots still did what they were purchased to do because it represented a cost savings for the automakers. The other approach to it, though, were the automakers in Japan. When they started putting vehicle assembly robots in their plants, the workers were actually happy. Why? Well, the workers were happy because it meant that production quality would go up. Because the robots will do a precise job over and over again and do it generally without fail, without complaining 24/7, that sort of thing, the quality of the cars were going to go up. So more people would be willing to buy Japanese cars. And because more people bought cars, the companies themselves would do better. They would sell more, they would make more money, and it would trickle down and benefit everyone who worked at the company. Now, why those workers were happy about it was because of a bit of a weird quirk in the way of thinking that I've found in Japanese society, in that there's a bit of altruism there. The companies didn't really lay off tons and tons of people when they put the robots in. They just reassigned them to different work. So the people were happy because it was a win-win for everybody. They got to keep their jobs, and the company overall did better. But now they didn't have to do some of that really grueling hard work so much anymore. And even now, I've been seeing, products from Japanese companies. Like I saw one that was like this automatic sushi making device where it would produce the precisely little portion bits of rice for sushi. And the machine could do everything if they wanted it to, but the company that designed it stopped short. It left out the last step on purpose because they wanted a human to still have a job. So it's that same concept of the machine can do more precise work without getting tired and all of that, but they didn't completely cut humans out of the process. And I think that's going to be potentially the real balance to strike as more and more industries rely on AI and automation, is that we shouldn't necessarily push them all of the way into, well, everything is done by a robot and nothing ever has human interaction anymore. I think it really should be more a way of helping to get the tougher parts of work done, better quality, better consistency, and leave the humans to do the work that's best for humans to do. Not necessarily the menial labor over and over again kind of stuff. And we've seen this before. We've seen this all throughout the Industrial Revolution, going from complete handwork where everything was done by humans to more and more machinery getting involved. And you know what? I think back then they had the same discussions and concerns and arguments that we're having now. Look at how it worked out. I mean, humans still have jobs. The world still turns. We didn't hear about any sort of terrible, robot overlord uprising kind of thing that caused all sorts of people to lose their jobs back then because of the machines. It's really just more of the same now, just different fields, and it has a different face. I will leave you with this. There is a really excellent video by CGP Grey where he talks about this topic. He doesn't necessarily go so much into the mental aspects of it and the whole pros, cons, positive, negative spin, but it's a pretty cut and dried approach to talking about the topic. I'll include a card to that one up above so you can check that one out. But in any event, I'm curious as to your thoughts. Do you work in an industry that has already been disrupted by automation? Or is the industry that you're in potentially going to be disrupted by automation? What are your plans? Is this something that's affected you? How have you handled that situation? So I'm curious as to your thoughts. Be sure to leave them down in the comments below. If you like the video, I would appreciate a thumbs up. Be sure to subscribe if you haven't already. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at thisdoesnotcomp. And as always, thanks for watching.